The government of Barbados is rolling out a new all-in-one digital ID, promising convenience and security for every Bajan. It is called the Trident ID and it is designed to modernize the nation by replacing laminated IDs that have been in use since Tom Adams' time, 1979. According to the official site, this is a polycarbonate card, is tamper-proof, durable, and secure, featuring visible and invisible identifiers, from QR codes to machine-readable zones, and forms part of a wider Barbados identity management system. You can see all of that on trident.gov.bb. Remember, I tell you to research for oneself. Good. Officials say that it is the key to seamless e-government, better financial services, and a stronger digital economy. But I can't help but think that when you take a closer look at it, there are serious issues and hidden risks that start to emerge. It kind of turns this modern marvel into a source of controversy. I don't know, but the government is promising the future. One digital card for everything. Ultimate convenience and total security. But what if this modern marvel isn't exactly what we think it gonna be? I am Zana Monique, the creator of Bajans.net, and this is Let We Call It We Baj-Story. And today, we're going to talk about the Trident ID system and why it is raising some serious red flags but here. Everything shared in this episode represents my own research, reflections, and creative commentary, drawn from publicly available information and insight. I always do my best to cite and credit every source I can, so that you can explore and form your own understanding too. I am not a political figure, and I am not affiliated with any governmental, organizational, or partisan entity. My purpose is solely this: to help educate, to help document, and to help uplift Barbados by opening honest and respectful conversations about all the issues and things and cultural events, etc. shaping our Baj-Story, because at the end of the day, this truly is our Baj-Story in the making. Now let's get to it. The Trident ID, right, is introduced under the Barbados Identity Management Act of 2021, which replaced the old National Registration Act. So phase 1 is the physical card. Phase 2 is the digital ID. If one want to know more about it, see it right here behind me. Read it in the Government of Barbados Identity Management Act in 2021 online right here. The government's pitch rests on 3 basic ideas: convenience, security, and modernization, because we have to, get with it. Convenience: the embedded chip will eventually store future credentials like your driver's licenses, bus passes, and more, as stated on Trident website. Security: officials claim that the old laminated IDs were easy to forge. I can understand that. The new cards feature encrypted chips and anti-forgery layers. They insist biometric data is hashed or scrambled so that raw fingerprints can't be stored. Modernization: the Trident card is part of the Barbados digital transformation, right? And it's encouraged by the World Bank and the IMF, both of which have framed the digital IDs as the foundation of digital public infrastructure. It all sounding efficient and everything, but can we just dive into what's beneath the surface for a minute? Critics like Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, the law lecturer who was former DLP president, has called the Trident system an assault on liberty, and you can see it right here in Barbados today in January 24. And he had argued that it concentrated power and information in a centralized digital ID, which means that every single transaction, from banking to healthcare to simply tapping on a bus, could leave digital traces back to a single database. Over time, these small traces build a complete map of a person's life. So at first, the government did want fingerprints and everybody kick off one time. And after weeks of that criticism, they decide that they can make it optional. But as of Barbados censored article on February 2023, it shows that in our Baj-Story, optional sometimes becomes mandatory. Anyway, cybersecurity expert Neil Harper had warned that the ID framework could lead to unprecedented levels of surveillance, especially given the country's weak history of protecting citizens' data. You can check it out here, right here as well. So it means then that once all identifiers such as health and taxes, licenses can come together under one digital key, that then becomes a system that can monitor not just what you do, but who you are, where you are. So regarding the protection of citizen data, well, Barbados has a worrying track record when it comes to protecting sensitive information. The Queen Elizabeth Hospital, the Immigration Department, the Revenue Authority have all experienced breaches or cyber incidences. So who's to say that this will be protected? So in 2024, the Barbados Statistical Service confirmed a breach of staff and research data, and you can see it right here. And yet the Barbados Identity Management Act somehow fails to require immediate public disclosure of breaches or clarifies who bears responsibility. Without legal accountability and transparency, if your data leaks, the state can simply get on with business as usual while you live with the consequences. Just like how I said in the last episode, let me call it with Baj-Story. Are we prepared for things regardless of the strategies and systems that folks want to implement? We need to prepare for every single circumstance. Are we really? Let me know what you think. Comment below as per usual. Look, I just need to pause for a minute and say, I just wish that Barbados could be different from all the other places out there. And I will touch on that in a minute. All the other places out there that are implementing or have implemented a digital ID. I wish that we can blow everything out of the water and be so different that everything runs perfectly. There wouldn't be any problems or risks or people feeling as if they are in danger personally, or that their mental health will be all right because of this, or they don't feel safe or whatever. I wish that we would be different. But my problem is that we need referendums on more town halls. We need discussions on things. We need to listen to the everyday person in Barbados. Things need to be more transparent. We need to look in the past. And that's why I keep bringing up the past, because we don't learn from it. That's why we need to keep talking about it. And see all the mistakes that are made and have been made, that continue to be made, so that we can improve on those things. Look, it can be empowering, right? But I don't know if everyone is going to have equal access. Are we truly looking at the entire picture? Consider the elderly, for instance. For instance, my mom has dementia, has no clue about what's going on, but she still lives. She's still in Barbados, and she has contributed to the island. So how about people like her? How about people who are elderly? How about people with cognitive issues? How about people who cannot get out and do anything but they're alone? How about all these households that have a low income, people who are cash poor, people who do not have enough to own a simple smartphone, no matter how low the series or whatever, who do not have consistent internet access. How about all those people and more? Anybody answering that sort of question? I just want to know, because I am not a political person, as I said, but I just really passionate about land that I lived in for so long, that is in my blood. I want to see us do better. And I want to see that the people who are leading us, no matter what party or whatever, think about the people with everything, not just pieces of things, everything. Early drafts of the act made it mandatory. That ID mandatory for voting and licensing and basic services, which is effectively coercing adoption of the digital ID. So how about all those people and more that I just mentioned? So apparently, according to Barbados Today, January 2024, in that same article I spoke about regarding Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, Minister Cadell confirms that the laminated IDs would remain valid indefinitely. So something happened while I was editing. I came upon this post by barbadostoday.bb, digital ID cards, and I gave it a read. It's very interesting. There's certain things that are constantly repeated for emphasis. And running this campaign is the Minister of Innovation, and he has mentioned trust quite a number of times and is trying to show that it is safe and also that it is a voluntary situation. So let me just go through this a little bit so you can see what I mean, and please take a look at it for yourself. It is Government to Relaunch Campaign for Digital ID Cards on barbadostoday.bb. The article is today, the 27th of October, 2025. So let me highlight a few things. He has now mentioned that this is a drive to address lingering doubts about the country's digital ID cards, and they're trying to build trust in the technology-based national projects. As I mentioned, there are certain things said quite a few times. He sought to assure citizens that the digital ID cards are a secure, advanced, and efficient means of verifying identity while enabling a wide range of seamless digital services. Somehow I'm feeling the question coming up that people may ask, and this is just from reading comments, reading articles, listening to videos, things like that. Probably people may ask, as Bajans may, but we didn't ask for that. Who asked for all of this? I feel as if that's going to be a question, but let me continue. Again, it's said here, it's being launched to strengthen public trust. Again, here, fundamental to build an advanced system of trust. It's the only way digital identification and the digital economy is going to work. He is tasked with creating a future-ready economy and to position the island as a global leader in digital transformation, innovation, and sustainability. And he said a very right thing, that the well, at least this is what I think, the old laminated identification cards are outdated and can be easily forged. I agree. Those had been about for quite a long time. They can be easily forged. That is very true. However, again, you have a lack of trust. You have issues whether what is being told to you is the truth. So in the coming months, there will be a rollout nationwide of communications. It will be a campaign to clearly explain and to simplify the whole digital ID systems benefits and how they benefit Barbadians and how it will enhance convenience in everyday life. He made a point of also saying that the participation will remain voluntary. He said this comment as well, you can choose. And that's fundamentally the message that we want to be bringing to the country over the next few months, that it is just a simple thing of verifying who you are, what you have, what you own, what are your responsibilities, what are your opportunities, that is all. And it is a place that can store those things, whether it's on your phone, whether it's in a card, or whether it's a website. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I was wondering about the word voluntary, is that sometimes things can be voluntary, but you can also end up being out of the loop because you did not subscribe to certain things, and that you ultimately then feel as if you have to do them because you will be kind of out of the loop. Again, I don't have a problem with them changing the card itself that we have at the moment, because yes, it can be easily forged, definitely. But still, we have a whole nation of people who don't trust because it feels as if everything has just been plopped in front of everybody without proper clarity, and also with people knowing full well that in other countries these things have been thrust upon people and they've had to use them, and you end up with a lot of security breaches and things like that. So understandably, there is a lack of trust. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I am going to touch further on the comparisons to other digital IDs that other countries have implemented. So hang tight for that. I don't know. I just got this thing. I don't really trust people. Because as more agencies across the globe shift to digital verification, exclusion may happen under the radar, quietly. Not by law, but just by design. Just because. A Barbados Today editorial called the rollout a story of bungling by both the Bs and the Ds. I can read a little bit for you in a minute, but this is the story right here. Some things to note. Costs exceeded $10 million and multiple deadlines were missed. Thousands of cards sat uncollected. The online portal crashed. And I can show you that the online portal still ain't functioning, forcing an in-person registration only. See? I'm ain't working. Unfortunately, public confidence suffered because people saw a familiar pattern. The ambitions of the government, whoever it may be, launched without adequate consultation, referendum, transparency, etc. Look, if citizens don't trust the process, right? That right there is your number one failure. So Barbados may be an island, but it actually is on a planet. And unfortunately, we tend to run behind what everyone else does because systems need to cooperate, systems need to talk to each other, we need to be doing such and such in order to still be part of the global community, etc., etc. We depend a lot on bigger nations, etc., etc. Therefore, we are going to touch on the digital IDs of some other countries for a minute. And as said before, you know what I said about Barbados, right? About how the three main ideas for implementing the digital ID was because of convenience, security, and modernization, right? So this is something that is global. Yeah, around the world, this is how it's being promoted, especially for the modernization. However, the outcomes have varied widely. So the World Bank and G20, which is a group that is the premier international forum for global economic cooperation, bringing together 19 major economies and 2 regional blocs, the European Union and the African Union, to discuss and coordinate policies on major economic, financial, and developmental issues. These 2 entities, the World Bank and the G20, call them a part of digital public infrastructure, the backbone of future economies, so to speak. But critics everywhere argue that they create powerful systems of surveillance. And I've been looking at a few different people from all over the place online and things, just saying the same thing and raising the same concerns as you may be raising in Little Barbados. The pattern is simple, right? The digital IDs start as a convenience project and then end up as some instrument of control. And I heard specifically from another person I watched up to a few hours ago that said this is how it starts. It starts with something being simple that should help people. And then certain individuals run with that, mess up everything from everybody. And in my head, and I'm thinking, why? Why? You're a human being like everybody. Why? Anyway, let me carry on, right? Let me touch upon India. So there's something called, I may pronounce this wrong, Aadhaar, but this is it. This is the world's largest digital ID project, and it was launched as far back as 2009. This was meant to simplify welfare delivery, but ended up excluding millions of people due to biometric mismatches. You see what I mean? Are we prepared for things like that? Have we improved on things I don't even look. Data leaks expose citizens' fingerprints, their banking information as well, right? And that country's Supreme Court eventually ruled that making it mandatory violated privacy rights. We then have Estonia with the EID. And it's often called the gold standard of digital identity, and 99% of its citizens use their EID. However, in 2017, a vulnerability forced government to suspend over 750,000 cards to prevent exploitation. So not even the gold standard is invincible. And then you have Nigeria's National Identification Number, NIN. So Nigeria's system aimed to streamline identity for governance and banking. Instead, it raised mass privacy and security concerns, with reports of internal misuse and data leaks. The system also excludes rural citizens with poor access to digital registration points, internet, etc. Then we have Kenya. We have the Huduma Namba that was launched in 2019 as a national ID solution. The High Court suspended it in 2021 for violating citizens' rights to privacy and lacking a clear data protection law. Jamaica, we hitting home now. The NIDS, the National Identification and Registrations Act, was struck down by Jamaica's Supreme Court in 2019 for breaching constitutional rights. A revised version was introduced in 2021 promising stronger data safeguards. However, the public still remains skeptical. And we have St. Lucia and the OECS. So St. Lucia's government has discussed digital ID incentives under the OECS Digital Transformation Project. But privacy advocates warn about dependence on external funding and weak data protection, so adaptation remains slow. And we have the European Union and the Digital Identity Wallet. The EU promotes a single digital wallet to access banking and healthcare and travel, yet privacy watchdogs across Europe warn that linking personal data across all sectors increases the risk of abuse. You see a general trend here? And yet, we walk right into it. Each of these systems started with the same promises of convenience, modernization, and security. However, in every single case, the trade-offs became apparent with surveillance, exclusion, and data vulnerability. So we must look at it. It isn't that we can just do this and pretend that nothing is going on. It's something worldwide. So how are we going to be different? Are we going to be different? Be transparent. Are we ready for anything? Is this something necessary? Can we just do better? We must consider the fact that governments in small island nations like Barbados are under increasing pressure to modernize, but not always because of internal demand. It's because of global institutions that link digital governance to credit ratings and trade and to access developmental loans. Think about that for a minute. So while large entities like the World Bank and the OECS or IMF advocate for digital ID adaptation, they frame it as essential for progress. But whose progress exactly, huh? Seriously, aren't we all, like from the people in the upper echelons all the way down to the bottom, really thinking about this seriously? Really think about it. For many Bajans, modernization is not the actual problem, I don't think so. I think it's trust. And I know you heard me earlier say, I don't trust people. I don't really trust people. Technology without transparency risks becoming another colonial export. Are we going to fall into this again? It's nice and shiny on the surface, but extracting every blessed thing underneath. This is the Barbados Identity Management Act of 2021, and this is found on electoral.barbados.gov.bb. Go and research for oneself, as I always tell anyone. So there are amendments, by the way, and there are all sorts of things in this act. So go and take a look. But I wanted to just focus in on the particulars and features to be displayed on the identification card. Check this out. Full name of person, date of birth, sex, nationality, disability where applicable, national identification number, signature of person. This does not apply to a minor. And that would be the signature of the parent or guardian. Photograph of holder, that is not applicable to a minor either. Expiry date where applicable, residential status where applicable, QR code and other relevant coding for usage of relevant authority. Machine readable zone, digital chip. And then you have your particulars contained in the digital chip of the identification card. And there's most of the things that I said previously, including electronic signature, password, certificate for electronic identification, certificate for electronic signature, other representations or unique identifiers that may be stored electronically, whatever they may be, other personal data required pursuant to a relevant enactment or an international convention to which Barbados is a party. Then you have the particulars contained in the national identification credential, which are basically the same as that of the digital chip of the identification card. You're welcome. Lovelies, let us talk about this, okay? Let us talk about it in the comment section. Let us be respectful, but let's talk about it with each other, those who make these processes, those who know more than us, and share this episode with others as well, right? Ask questions. Always be curious about what is happening in your own little island, in our place that we call home. Let us hold our leaders accountable, because in the end, they're meant to be taking care of us. They are the civil servants. That's who they are. They're supposed to be taking care of us. And if they're taking care of us, they need to listen to us too and listen to our concerns. Technology, yes, should serve the people. It should help. It should make us better and bigger. But I don't think monitoring us and holding a microscope to us is it. This is our Baj-Story in the making, and it is up to us to make sure it is written right. Remember, respect, and revive, because it is upon our ancestors' shoulders we stand. I can talk to one in the next episode, but meanwhile, look at the last episode. It's real interesting.